At a campground in Lake Okoboji National Park near Sioux City, Iowa, an RV begins to shake violently in the dead of night. Inside, a woman named Darlene observes a blinding flash of light outside the vehicle. Moments later, she hears her son screaming from beyond the RV. She burns her hand on the doorknob, which has inexplicably become searingly hot. Darlene quickly uses mittens to open the door. Outside, her son, Kevin, informs her that Ruby, her teenage daughter, is missing. At FBI headquarters in Washington, Agent Scully learns that Agent Mulder has requested travel expenses for Iowa. Chief Scott Blevins presents her with a file detailing Mulder's long-held belief that his sister, Samantha, has been abducted by aliens. Scully speaks with Mulder, telling him that Ruby's disappearance isn't substantial enough to warrant an investigation. Mulder, however, insists that there's more to the story. He explains that Lake Okoboji has been a UFO hotspot, with 4 confirmed sightings in August 1967. Darlene, Ruby's mother, was one of the witnesses. The Air Force had dismissed the sightings as a weather balloon, despite the fact that there hadn't been a single weather balloon within a 700-mile radius. Mulder and Scully decide to visit Darlene in Iowa. At her home, Darlene reveals that Kevin has been acting strangely in recent days. Scully, sensing there may be more to the story, asks if there was a custody battle during Darlene's divorce. Darlene insists that her ex-husband has nothing to do with Ruby's disappearance. She firmly believes that aliens are responsible for abducting her daughter. Mulder then seeks to speak with Kevin. He finds him staring at the static on the television, seemingly transfixed. As Mulder approaches, he notices that Kevin is writing binary code on a piece of paper. Kevin claims the binary code is coming from the television, his eyes fixed on the screen as if receiving a signal. Mulder, intrigued, submits the code for analysis. Later, they meet with the local sheriff, who tells them there is no evidence of a kidnapping, no phone call, no ransom note, no body. The sheriff suggests that Ruby likely ran away, and that Darlene is simply in denial about it. As Mulder steps outside, he notices a note on his car. "I'm across the street. Follow me." He and Scully look across the street and spot a girl standing near the library. They follow her inside. The girl, introducing herself as Tessa, tells them that on the night Ruby disappeared, she was supposed to meet up with her boyfriend, Greg Randall. Tessa explains that Ruby and Greg were supposed to meet at the lake. Greg had gotten Ruby pregnant, and they planned to leave town together. She adds that Greg used to frequent the Pennsylvania pub. Mulder and Scully visit the bar, where the bartender informs them that Greg called in sick 3 weeks ago and hasn't been heard from since. As Mulder speaks with the bartender, he notices a UFO tattoo on his arm. The bartender then pulls back his hair to reveal a burnt ear, explaining that it was caused by a UFO encounter at Lake Okoboji. Later that night, while Scully is sleeping, she hears footsteps outside her room. She watches as 2 men roam the hallway, trying to open her door. Suddenly, the door bursts open, and the men demand to speak with Mulder. The men identify themselves as being from the NSA, demanding to know where Mulder obtained the binary code he sent for analysis. They inform him that the code is a fragment of a highly classified defense satellite transmission. Before Mulder can respond, the men receive a call and quickly leave. Shortly after, the NSA raids Darlene's house, convinced that Kevin poses a threat to national security due to his involvement with the code. Scully and Mulder arrive at the house just in time to witness Darlene and Kevin being arrested. The NSA agents recover more binary code from the house. As Mulder looks around, his attention is drawn to the RV in the garden. He notices that the top of the vehicle has turned black. Approaching it, he inspects the surface and sees the charred remnants of what appears to be burnt material. At the NSA, Mulder and Scully are informed that none of the information retrieved from Kevin is actionable. He is set to be released later that afternoon. The agents are also shown the binary code, which, when rendered digitally, reveals fragments of various complex patterns, resembling a DNA double helix and a piece of music. Yet the full message remains incomplete. After Kevin's release, Darlene confronts Mulder and Scully, her anger palpable. She firmly tells them to stay away from her family, insisting that they are causing more harm than good. Mulder, however, remains convinced that Kevin holds the key to finding Ruby. He believes that Kevin, having received and processed all kinds of digitized data, may be a conduit, some kind of link to whatever took Ruby that night. Mulder theorizes that during Ruby's abduction, Kevin might have been touched in some way, but Scully dismisses the idea, pointing out there is no evidence of an abduction. Despite her skepticism, they head to Lake Okaboogie. Upon arrival, they notice a burned tree line at the edge of the lake. As they explore further, Mulder discovers something strange. Some of the sand has turned to glass, a sign of intense heat, or something far more unusual. As they continue their search, Mulder spots a wolf and decides to follow it into the forest. Deeper in the woods, he stumbles upon a group of wolves circling a shallow grave. In an attempt to scare them away, he fires his gun into the air. When the wolves disperse, forensics teams arrive to investigate. They uncover the body of a Caucasian male, identified as Greg Randall, Ruby's boyfriend. While examining Greg's belongings, Mulder finds a note in his purse that reads, Dr. Jack Fowler, August 7th, 2:30. The note matches the one Mulder had previously found on his car. Later, Tessa is arrested and brought before Scully and Mulder. They confront her with information from Dr. Jack Fowler, who revealed that it's Tessa, not Ruby, who is pregnant. Tessa admits that Greg promised to take her to LA before Christmas. Mulder insinuates that she knew Greg and Ruby were supposed to meet at the lake, and that she had waited for them before killing them. Playing the bad cop, Mulder pushes her harder, eventually tricking Tessa into revealing the truth. She breaks, confessing that Ruby wasn't even at the lake that night. Scully, convinced that Ruby is dead, believes Tessa's confession about killing Greg means she must have also killed Ruby. But Mulder remains unconvinced. He insists that something else was out there in the woods, something that could be tied to Ruby's disappearance. Determined to find answers, Mulder tells Scully that he is going to speak with Kevin, believing the boy still holds the key to uncovering the truth. Mulder and Scully arrive at Darlene's house only to find it empty. As Mulder surveys the room, he notices sheets of paper scattered across the floor, each covered in binary code. Scully, heading upstairs, calls out to Mulder, urging him to come up. When he joins her, they look back at the scattered papers. From a distance, the binary code forms a hidden image, a photo of Ruby. As they drive toward the lake, Mulder opens up to Scully, sharing a piece of his past. He tells her that when he was a child, he would walk into his room with his eyes closed, hoping that his sister would be there. Even though he's grown up, he admits that he still does the same, a habit he can't shake. They arrive at the lake and find Darlene's RV parked by the water's edge. Mulder and Scully follow the trail, moving deeper into the woods. Soon, they find Darlene, breathless and distressed. She tells Mulder that she couldn't keep up with Kevin, who had been running ahead. Mulder continues down the trail, driven by a sense of urgency. Eventually, he spots Kevin walking toward a bright light. As Mulder approaches, the light reveals itself to be from a set of bike headlights. Mulder quickly grabs Kevin. Kevin insists she's back. Mulder, skeptical, brushes off his words, believing it to be another sign of Kevin's confusion. Suddenly, Mulder hears Scully shouting his name. She has found Ruby, unconscious but alive. Later, at the hospital, Mulder notices that Ruby is exhibiting symptoms consistent with prolonged weightlessness. Shuttle astronauts have reported similar imbalances in their health after prolonged exposure to space. Later, they meet with Ruby, who is now awake. Mulder gently asks her if she remembers where she was. Ruby hesitates, then quietly responds, "They told me not to say anything." Before they can press her further, Darlene arrives, her expression stern. She tells them both to step outside and insists that she wants them gone. Mulder urges Ruby tell her story, insisting that she shouldn't keep it a secret. But Darlene explains that she's already shared her own story of the UFO sighting with everyone, only to be ridiculed. The truth, she says, brought her nothing but pain, and she refuses to let her daughter endure the same fate. Mulder leaves in disappointment, unable to convince her to let Ruby speak. Later, Scully listens to tapes of hypnotic sessions, where Mulder recalls the night his sister vanished. Meanwhile, Mulder is sitting alone in a church, looking at his sister's photo. He cries helplessly because, unlike Ruby, he wasn't able to save his sister, and the pain of that loss still lingers. Please like and subscribe the channel for more videos like these.